Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our live coverage and our post-analysis of South Africa's legal team's appeal at the ICJ in The Hague. We've had such great response from various stakeholders, the legal minds of South Africa and various organizations that have contributed to the post-analysis of South Africa's case and the counter-argument delivered by Israel as well. Our next guest, all the way from Palestine, live at the moment, is the Chief of Party for Counterpart International, Mr. Milhem. He managed a program aiming at building the capacity of 80 civil society organizations in Sudan as well. All the way from Palestine, Executive Director for Palestine Farmers Union, Mr. Abbas Milhem. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Abbas, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Good evening to you and to South Africa.
Jazakallah so much for affording us your time. I do understand it's a very complex and turmoil time for our brothers and sisters in Palestine right now. Before we get into the post-analysis around the appeal that South Africa has brought towards the ICJ, what is the current situation in Palestine at the moment? Which part of Palestine are you? And could you maybe give us an update?
Yes, the current situation in Palestine is still deteriorating with the continued airstrike against civilians, children, women, infrastructure in Gaza. Day by day, hour by hour, and even minute by minute, there are more people who are killed, more bloodshed that's shed in Gaza, and more residential areas being destroyed and distracted by the Israeli aircraft and the military tanks in Gaza. I'm talking to you from West Bank, from city of Ramallah in West Bank. But at the time when that war is happening in Gaza, the genocide that is happening against Gaza now, there is another type of war occurring and happening in West Bank here, led by settlers who are attacking our farmers in their farmland. They shoot them to death in their farmland. They're kicking out farmers from their grazing areas and from their farmland areas, denying their access to their land and their farmland, denying their access to water connectivity and water resources. It is another war that is happening here in West Bank, along with the war and the genocide that is happening in Gaza. Israeli occupation is aiming at amplifying the entire Palestine and destroying the dream of Palestinians for freedom and independence and living in peace. This is the current situation, which is really catastrophic. Hoping that what's happening now in Hague will put an end for this bloody war once and for all forever, and hold the occupiers accountable to all the crimes they committed against Palestinians in the entire Palestinian area, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Brother Abbas. And, our du'as, our prayers are all with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Inshallah, this conflict ends very soon. Has humanitarian aid been allowed into Gaza? Is there, the sufficient help that is needed for those that are literally desperate for water, electricity, for food? Has the aid been delivered into the various camps that are housing many people that are left abandoned?
No, not until now. What is entering to Gaza from food aid forms like 5% of the food needs of Gaza people. Just yesterday, there were children who died from starvation in the northern part of Gaza. And the number of trucks, food aid trucks that enter Gaza is less, as I said, than 5%. Gaza now need 1,000 trucks of food aid, medicine, and food and non-food items on daily basis. But what is entering Gaza is less than 200 trucks so far. That is all focused in the south area, with very little number of trucks moving to the north due to the control of the Israeli army and the preventing of the army from these trucks from entering the north part of Gaza. And people there are starving. They are eating leaves of trees. They are left with nothing. And not many of them are dying of starvation, and mainly kids. And as I said, yesterday we received reports from Gaza about children in the north dying from starvation. And this should end soon. And every single minute, the court in Hague will continue discussing and reviewing to take any decision to stop this war would mean more killings and more houses to be demolished in Gaza.
Wow.
Let food aid enter Gaza without restriction and without being subjected to this bureaucratic system of investigation from the Israeli side, where people now in Gaza are in the edge, the South Gaza are in the edge of starvation because of the lack of food, water, and the basic needs for their daily life. And as you see, and as you may know, we are now, there is winter time in Gaza, which is adding to the challenges of people who are displaced with no shelter except some form of tents that cannot even protect them from coldness and winter time. The need for aid, all forms of aid, should enter Gaza without any delay and postponement.
Inshallah. The WhatsApp line's open, dear viewer. If you'd like to correspond with Brother Abbas and send us your special message, 079-085-2511. Let us know your thoughts about the conflict that's currently happening and the situation in Gaza at the moment. Brother Abbas, yesterday, I think, really was a momentous and historical day, not just for South Africa, but for the people of Palestine, our brothers and sisters in Palestine, and for the world, countries that have been riddled and faced with conflict for so many years. What are the thoughts of yourself and maybe some of the Palestinians about South Africa's legal team that has really taken the fight to Israel at the World Court, the ICJ?
This is the day of international humanity. This is the day when those persecuted people in this world would feel with some hope that there are people in this world who care. We were not surprised to know that South Africa is taking the lead in this court by standing in victory with the set of principles of humanity, values of justice for people who are under occupation for the past 56 years until now, who are subjected to daily attacks and daily killings and harassments by the occupations since all these past decades. This humanity that was ignored for long decades by many Western governments are now on the track, we hope. All the eyes, the souls, the hearts of Palestinian people are with what South Africa is doing in The Hague, standing with the values we know South Africa has been believing in. South Africa, that country that had struggled for many years against the apartheid regime, and that struggled for so many years for independence, for freedom, for humanity, and for dignity, where the whole world, many people in this world, including Palestinians, stand side by side with African until the apartheid regime in South Africa was toppled down. And now South Africa is still, believing and working hard for these values and principles at the time when so many countries in this world, especially the Western countries, who have been trying to preach the world about the values and the concepts of humanity, democracy, international human law, they were not even respecting the values they have been telling the world about. This is the time where we feel as Palestinians for the first time that this occupation, maybe for the first time, will be held accountable against all the war crimes, against the crimes against humanity, the genocide crimes, the extermination crimes they are conducting in Gaza, and hope this will help in cease the fire against Gaza, stop the war, and end the occupation, inshallah, as soon as possible. Bring back hope to Palestinian children, civilians, elderly people, citizens in general, that peace can really prevail and we can live in dignity and in equal human rights like any other human beings in this world.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you, Brother Abbas, and inshallah, this conflict ends very soon as well. We all in South Africa are 100% behind you, and inshallah, all of this will end very soon. We heard from our legal team just, snippets of what really is going on, what has happened, not just the 7th of October for the last 76 years, of the genocide, of the attacks, of the continuing, the apartheid state of Israel that has inflicted the subjugation of people in Palestine as well. Is there, if you had to be, in the court right now, if you were part of our legal team, what were the main points that maybe impressed you and was highlighted that you found very compelling that our legal team put forward towards the ICJ?
You know what the legal team of South Africa did in this in the appeal yesterday is that they relied on all the speeches that were made by Israeli official leaders, especially those messages to wipe out Gaza.
Yeah.
These messages that to prevent Gaza people from getting access to food aid, medication, electricity, and basic needs for living, for daily living. All the proofs they have submitted during this appeal was based on what those occupier leaders were telling openly and officially. And this encouraged the settlers to conduct attacks and kill farmers, families, children in their farmland. When we used to say from the past decades to the whole world that what is happening is really extermination, displacement, evacuation of our Palestinian land by settlers for the sake and for the benefit of settlement expansion, that world was silent and blind and did not believe what we were calling for. But now during this war, those leaders have been saying this openly and calling their supporters in the entire Palestinian area to attack as many farmers and as many civilians they can, which led to the killing of so many farmers in West Bank, which is not dominated by Hamas, according to the accusations of what this Israeli government is saying. The aim of this Israeli occupying power is to destroy Palestine and annex Palestine to Israel and end the whole dream of Palestinians for independence and for freedom. I was really touched from my heart with all the proofs South Africa legal team have been delivered to this court, relying on all what the Israeli official spokesman said about this war, about their goals and their objectives from invading Gaza, which proves by no other words that they were going there to wipe out Gaza, to destroy civilians and kill as many civilians as they can, destroy worship places, destroy hospitals, destroy infrastructure, roads, and denying the access of people for food and for medication and for dignified life in that part of the world.
Jazakallah so much, Brother Abbas. We've opened the WhatsApp line. A couple of WhatsApp have come through as well from our viewers. The one says, Alhamdulillah, that we had the guts to go this route. Now we should not stop. We should investigate the soldiers that went to fight in Israel and check if there is any law which we can use against them. This is from WhatsApp number 3518. Jazakallah so much. And then another one, Salam, Fatima Hendricks here. Seems as if the Zionists lawyers were obsessed with Hamas. Every sentence started off with Hamas. Their lies are unacceptable. Any person with a brain sees right through them. Jazakallah so much from Sister Fatima Hendricks as well. Brother Abbas, as you can see, South Africans sharing their sentiment with regards to the counter argument that was put through today by Israel. And I'm sure you must have been paying very close attention to their argument today. What stood out for you with regards to their deliverance at the ICJ?
Israeli legal team and the attorneys are trying to repeat the same lies we used to hear to justify their occupation for the past decades. The crisis and the genocide did not start only on October 7. What Israel has been committing has been since the past 75 years, exactly like what the legal team of South Africa mentioned yesterday in their appeal. We are subjected day by day to these harassment these attacks, these killings, and the massive destruction of our infrastructure. Gaza had been under siege for the past 17 years, restricting of movement for people, for civilians from Gaza, outside Gaza, restricting the movement of people to get medication outside Gaza. So this harassment had been continued. And what the Israeli legal team was saying yesterday, was saying today about justifying the war in Gaza, it's just repeating the lies. And I'm sure, inshallah, The Hague will stand for humanity, because this world now has been split into two main parts. One part that supports brutality and butchery against civilians, and the other part that stands with humanity, led by South African values and principles. And this will be mentioned in history when South Africa stood in victory to bring back the belief in humanity and human rights and international human law, inshallah.
Inshallah. As part of the Palestinian Farmers Union, you mentioned what is happening right now with regards to your side of the world and some of the attacks and conflict. But what was the impact that this conflict between Gaza, Palestine, and Israel, what is the conflict had on the Farmers Union, and more importantly, the economic climate in Palestine?
Yeah, we in the union documenting the daily attacks conducted by settlers against farmers in West Bank from the first day when the war against Gaza was erupted on October 7th. In only 1 month during October, we have reported and recorded, documented 350 attacks against farmers in West Bank.
Sure.
And these attacks were in different types. One type of these attack or category of these attacks were shooting farmers in their farmlands to death. As you know, when the war erupted in October, in Palestine, it was the olive season harvest time and date. So more than 150,000 farmer families were in their farmland trying to harvest their olives. But due to the settler attacks against farmers in their olive farms, they were prevented from picking up their olives, attacking them. Many farmers were injured, others were killed, and thousands of them were denied access to pick up their olives. This year, 50% of our farmers were unable to get access to their farmland and pick up their olive and harvest their olive season. More than 1,000 farmer families from Jordan Valley area in West Bank and in south of Hebron area in West Bank, I'm here talking more about livestock farmers, were kicked out and forced to leave by settlers backed up by the army, their farmlands and their area. They are until now unable to get back to their farmland areas from where they live, on which they graze, they use it for grazing of their animals. They have been displaced inside West Bank, along with those people displaced in Gaza. So it is really a bloody war that is happening also against farmers in West Bank. And the aim of that is the Israeli government plan to annex the entire agricultural area in West Bank for the sake of settlement expansion and for the control of settlers. This should end and this should stop. Settlers should be held accountable. The Israeli army should be held accountable. The Israeli government should be held accountable. Hopefully all the eyes and all the hearts for the decision the ICJ court will take, and this might be the first step and the first action that will be taken in order to hold all persecutors accountable against all the crimes they have been committing for the past 56 years until now.
Absolutely. Brother Abbas, I think the more important question is, should the appeal that South Africa is putting forward towards the ICJ, should the appeal be recognized, be granted? Do you think that Israel will adhere to the various possible sanctions, possible fines that will be submitted towards them?
Yeah, if the decision from the court will accept inshallah, the appeal of South Africa, this will be the beginning of sanctioning all those who committed war crimes, not only during this war in Gaza, but from the beginning of this occupation in 1967 until now. And all those criminals who committed war crimes in West Bank, in Gaza, and in East Jerusalem should be held accountable. And Israel, as an occupying power, should maybe for the first time being sanctioned and punished, and they have to pay back for all the crimes they have committed. This is what we all in Palestine are looking for, and inshallah we will witness this depending on the decision of this court, inshallah, in the coming few days.
Despite the decisions being made by the Israeli government, are you in contact with various colleagues, community that live in Israel? Is there a community that want this conflict to end very soon?
Yeah, there are some organizations in West Bank that work against the occupation and some movements there also. Although now the peace camp in Israel have been shrinked since the right-wing move and trend in Israel have expanded. This recent government, Israel, is the most extremist and right-wing government that have been ever witnessed in the history of the Israeli occupying power. Unfortunately, the voices of the small peace camp in Israel is still unheard yet. But yes, there are some groups in Israel who are still standing for peace and struggling for peace and standing against occupation, like for example, Meretz and other movement in Israel that work against the settlement expansion and against settlers, like Israeli Physicians for Human Rights, like Gisha movement, and like other small groups who are still believing in peace and in the two-state solution, believing in the right of Palestinians to live in dignity, in the independent state, with a viable state that has sovereignty over its resources, that can live in peace nearby Israel as two neighborhood, peaceful countries living together, believing in the values of peace and two-state solution.
Very quickly, in closing, is there any special message you would like to send to South Africans, more importantly, the legal team of South Africa?
I'm unable to describe how grateful we in Palestine are for South Africa. South Africa as a president, South Africa as a government, South Africa as a parliament, political parties, and every single citizen in South Africa. All the hearts, from the bottom of our hearts, we are really feeling grateful to South Africa. For the past few days until now, on a daily basis, there are a large number of Palestinians standing and rallying in the street, hanging and holding South African flag in a message of showing respect, solidarity, heartfelt message for South African for the work and the appeal they have been doing for the sake of humanity and for the sake of the freedom of Palestine and Palestinian rights. Thank you, South Africa. Thank you, every single citizen in this South Africa. You have to feel proud. We feel proud of knowing you. We feel proud of standing with you during your struggle before. We feel proud of continue knowing you. You are the core, holding the torch of humanity in this world and human rights.
Alhamdulillah. Executive Director of the Palestine Farmers Union, Brother Abbas Milhem, it's been an absolute pleasure linking up with you. All the very best, and we'll definitely keep in touch and speak. Please pass our du'as, our prayers, our sincere congratulations to the brave women of Palestine that stand up against the conflict that they face on a daily basis as well. All the very best. Have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله أفريقيا وفلسطين. شكرا.
Afwan. And there we go, all the way from Palestine, Brother Abbas Milhem, who's Executive Director of the Palestine Farmers Union. You can see the ripple effect that this conflict has had on the various economic climate organizations and the climate that's affected economically in Palestine. That's all from the Cape Town team. We now cross back to Johannesburg, where our team will be taking you through to a post-analysis on the ICJ hearing the South African legal team's appeal at the ICJ. From the Cape Town team, Sohail Barnes and myself, Lukman Shadrack, have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum.